Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were 4 categories, right? Mm-hmm. So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
What I find most fascinating is a children's book. A children's book written by none other than a child, Ariana. With this book, she talks about her journey to healing, and she wants to reach children with a desperate cry. To me, that is so mind-blowing because, again, as children, we are impacted in ways that we sometimes haven't dreamt of, right? Whether it's, we were muzzled as children, whether we were not hugged, we were not loved, whatever those situations are, and we did not deal with them. And guess what happened? We grew up to adults and we bleed out on the people around us. So if we can address these things as children, OMG, can you imagine what a beautiful world that would be?
This week, in their meeting with us, we were allowed to take a good look at ourselves. We were reminded that we are made in the image and the likeness of God. And if that is true, there's some things we have to change that we've been thinking all along. We were given a whole new set of lenses with which to see the Word of God when we read it with a desire to understand what that love letter is all about. We were allowed to put ourselves, not talk about somebody else, like the sermon wasn't for this one or that one, but it was for us. We have gained such growth this week. I have gained such growth this week. My eyes have been opened, and God also used the tailors to help me to see the things that have been happening in my life were His call on my life to be a better person, to be more caring, more loving, more compassionate. Have you written a letter to yourself yet? We did that this week. We wrote a love letter to ourselves, and we weren't afraid to call ourselves beautiful because we are made in the image and the likeness of God. Amen. I pray that everyone here had an opportunity at least one night to join with the tailors to begin that new journey. You're looking in a race, and you're running, and you see the end inside. We're at that place. The end is inside. But there's some things we need to correct. There's some erroneous information we've carried for a while, and so much so it has been inculcated in our spirits. But we saw this week it's okay to let go of that. And it is now time for us to see what God intends for us. What we need to chase after is love. Not houses, not cars, not clothes, not food. God said in Matthew 6:33, He'll provide all of that. So this week, our hearts have been open to receive God as He desired to be received by us. And we want to say thank you to the tailors for this.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Welcome back to another Monday Night with KW. We're excited to be here with you yet again.
We are so excited to be with you on tonight. I'm going to be honest with you. We're not feeling our very best tonight. And I am actually happy that we're not feeling our very best because of the discussion that we're going to have. And we want to be authentically ourselves and give you a chance to I think the buzzword that we want to use, the buzz phrase we want to do tonight is to give yourself permission to feel.
Yes.
I think that was Philetta that said that at our lab. We have a nice little private group on Friday nights, and one of our participants said, give yourself permission to feel.
Yeah.
So, and if you could just run that across the screen, because that's what we want to really do tonight, is give ourselves permission to feel. But we would like to welcome you and tell you thank you so much for being with us tonight. Let me start out by apologizing. Our guest is under the weather, and so unfortunately she will not be able to join us. However, one of the reasons why we do KW Ministries is because we have a therapist right here with us. That's what Kamala does by our profession. And so our topic will be the same, grieving. But before we get into our topic, let's just, what's KW Ministries? What is it that we're doing here?
Well, I'm glad you asked. If you are listening to us for the very first time, or even if you've listened to us, maybe not tens of thousands of times, but you've listened to us enough. KW Ministries is simply a ministry that's born out of our own authentic experience with marriage, with life, and learning that sometimes with life, it can be painful. Learning that with life, sometimes you can go through experiences that when you look back at it, you say, gosh, I wish I didn't have to go through that, but you did. And so KW Ministry is really kind of born out of our own desperate cry, our own marital distress that almost took us to the brink of coming to an end. And out of that, we said, not that we've arrived, because it's a journey, but now that we've had this experience, we've had these experiences, we're working through these experiences, what better ministry than to connect with others who maybe their desperate cry isn't marital, maybe their desperate cry is illness, maybe their desperate cry is, journeying through friendship, whatever the desperate cry is, to give people the opportunity just to share alongside with us and share a couple of things. Share, first of all, if they went through a desperate cry, how do they go through it? If they are going through a desperate cry, how are they going through it? And for us to kind of just have a forum where we can talk and just be ourselves.
Awesome. And that's why we're here with you every single Monday night. And tonight will be no exception as we talk about grieving. But before we start talking about grieving, we would like to just give you a quick tour of our store. We always tell you about our products. And so tonight we actually want to show you our product. Tonight we want to actually just give you a quick tour through our store.
And if you're looking at the bottom of your screen right now, you'll see that direct website that's going to lead you right to the page you're looking at, www.kwministries.net/shop.
And when you come in here, it says, welcome to our store. And you'll see the different products that we offer. You'll see here, My Journey to Healing, Reaching Children with a Desperate Cry. And this is our physical books. This is our print books. These are what we will send you. And this talks about Ariana, our 13, 14-year-old daughter's journey to healing with Crohn's disease. And so this is everyone that has read this book has really shared with us how much it has been a blessing to them.
Something that everyone has also said is that, while Ariana wrote that book to connect with other kids,
yes,
many people who have read that book have said, this is not just for kids. This is something that I can relate to as an adult, and I definitely agree.
And then over here, we have our 8 coping skills to heal. this book is a really, to me, this book is a really, really, really special book because it's like having my own therapist with me. It's a workbook written by Kamala. It's a workbook written by a licensed marriage therapist, Kamala. It's a combination of a guidebook and workbook designed to teach you skills to deal with life's daily stresses. And so I'm really excited about this book. Go ahead, Mom.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed about this book, enjoyed about writing this book, enjoyed about, even reflecting on it and looking through it after writing it, is that it's just such an easy, interactive read. A lot of times when you see, guidebooks or self-help books or those kind of things, it's a lot of information. Now, it's not that there's not information here, but the way it's written is to guide you into self-reflection and to provide you strategies that you can use in everyday life. So I love the way it's kind of formatted.
All right, and we have many other products. Let's get back there. We lost our page for a quick second.
While we're navigating back, I want to chat with you a little bit about where things started. Our very first devotional, written by none other than Winston Taylor, was The Journey Begins, Devotional 1, Not by Might nor by Power, Morning Manna. And it was really indicative of the beginning of KW Ministries. And it really invites people on a journey to get to know Jesus for themselves. And I think, we always say now more than ever, but I think the truth is that it's timeless. We always need to get to know Jesus for ourselves.
That's right. And as you can see, this is our home screen. You can see all the rotation of the different stuff that we offer. And so we would love to invite you to go over to www.kwministries.net and take a look around. Then we'd also like to invite you. We want to give away a gift tonight. And the gift that we would like to give away tonight, and I believe it's the very best gift we can give away under the circumstances. Kamal and I had agreed that we were only going to do digital books going forward. But with what we're dealing with tonight, we really want to send you a copy of this book, A Journey Through Revelation. Look, it's Jesus. A Journey Through Revelation. Look, it's Jesus. Many people are scared of Revelation, Kamala. Yeah. The book of Revelation.
Doom and gloom, Armageddon, the end of all days.
The dragons and and all the symbolic beasts and stuff. So many people are scared of Revelation. But did you know, in my opinion, that's kind of funny. In my opinion, and I believe Revelation is one of the most beautiful books of the Bible. Let me say it again. Revelation is one of the most beautiful books of the Bible because it tells us how it all ends. And it does not end with an atomic bomb. It does not end with Armageddon. It does not end with the
annihilation of all things
with Russia and the United States. That's not how it ends. It ends with Jesus's coming. And so
it kind of ends with hope
versus
desolation.
Oh yes. It ends with Jesus coming to get us. So let me share something with you. This devotional is great for someone if you believe Revelation is too challenging, if you've never read Revelation before, or if you've read Revelation and you've just been confused. This devotional is a really, really, really good read for you. Listen to this, Kamala. And the title of the devotional is A Journey Through Revelation. Look, it's Jesus. All right, listen to this. John tells us to look. Jesus is coming. Friend of mine, the bread for today is Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming again. Jesus is coming again. Do you know what that means? Do you know the implications of that? No more suffering, no more hurt, no more pain, no more anxiety, no more depression, no more drug addiction, no more pandemics. Jesus is coming again. Does that make you feel excited? Does that give you hope? Does that give you joy? Does that give you a reason to keep going? And that's what the book of Revelation does. It gives you a reason to keep going.
And I think because of the direction that we're going to go in tonight,
Yes.
that this is a timely message for us not to give up hope, because better is coming. So here's the thing, guys. So you heard us say that we're going to give this away tonight. How you get it is as you're watching, you got to comment.
Join in the discussion.
That's how you get into the runnings for this free product tonight.
Like we said, our guest unfortunately is under the weather and so won't be able to make it. And so it's just gonna be us and you.
Yes.
So you get to actually participate more with us tonight as we have this discussion on grief. And so how you get it again is once you comment and you participate at the end of our program tonight, Annika is gonna put you into a raffle. It's gonna spin your name. You're gonna fill out the information, and we will put this in the mail for you. A Journey Through Revelation. Look, it's Jesus, and it's a really, really, really timely devotional for the stress and the pain that we're going through. Yeah. Are you ready to have this discussion, Kamala?
I think so.
If you know someone that is just going through a tough time right now, why don't you call them and say, hey, you don't want to miss what's going on, and share the link with them. Why don't you share the link, please, and invite someone to come as we have this talk about grief. And what we're going to talk about is our collective grief with all that's going on. All right, so please come and join us, and let's have a wonderful, I don't know about wonderful, but let's have a meaningful, authentic, meaningful, let's have a meaningful healing discussion tonight. We'll be right back.
There's a commercial that used to say, don't leave home without it. I think it was MasterCard. And at the end, they would say, you couldn't put a price on it. A price could not be put on what you and your wife did for me this week. And I'm just praying that your ministry will continue to be the blessing to others as it has been to me this week. Just the opening of the eyes, just seeing God's word with a whole different set of lenses, just understanding what is required of us, and laying aside the misnomers, the erroneous teachings, the errors, and just accepting who I am in Christ. And no one else could tell me who I am but the Word.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us all week long.
Thank you for being there with us.
Welcome back. Thank you so very much for joining us. By now, you have heard about Buffalo, New York, the racist doctrine that says that the white people in America are being replaced by foreigners, and this poison that poisoned this young man that led him to Buffalo, New York, to a supermarket, and that killed all those people. Yeah. Then right after that, an Asian young man. This gun thing is not a race thing. You can't, when you hear of a killing, you can't say it's going to be a white person or a black. This Asian young man went into an Asian church and shot up and killed people. Yeah. And then right after that, 21 children, 21 babies murdered, slaughtered, 19 babies murdered, slaughtered, killed in Uvalde, Texas. Yeah.
I think it's a good time for us to kind of take a collective kind of breath right here.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I was scrolling through social media, and I came across a post by somebody else. This particular person is an educator. And what they had done, this was right after Texas, what they had done, they had made a listing of of all of the schools in particular where shootings have occurred in the past couple of years.
Wow.
I'm not going to read the whole list, guys, because that would take us at least 20 minutes just by itself. But I'll give you a brief synopsis. Central Michigan University, Highland High School, Robert E. Lee High School, Grambling State University, Monroe Clark Middle School, Oshkosh High School, South Oak Cliff High School, Sonora High School.
Look. I don't know if I don't think you can't see the. Oh, okay. Look
at this list.
Look.
Look at this list. So when I say let's take a collective breath right here, it's really to acknowledge, like you said, we have been through a lot. That's just talking about people that we've lost
in schools.
I was about to use the word unnecessarily, but who do we lose necessarily?
Right.
But this is just people that we've lost in schools.
And then, Kamala, the pandemic.
We haven't touched the people that we've lost in the pandemic.
And then with the pandemic, Kamala, there is this fear of monkeypox. That's now, we're hearing that there are 9 cases. I don't even know if it has gone up, that there are 9 cases in 7 states.
So between the losses that we've experienced with our students, the losses we've experienced globally, the losses that we anticipate having, we have a lot of collective grief with us right now.
Here's how I'd like for us to start this conversation tonight. Come on, I'm going to show you a picture, and I'm going to show our audience a picture. And please, again, remember, talk to us, converse with us, have a conversation with us. I'm going to show you a picture that I believe, and Annika, could you put up the picture for us? I ran across this picture on Facebook a few days ago. And let me first of all say that I want to say I appreciate what the artist tried to do. I don't know how authentic I'm being when I say that, but I want his motive. I appreciate the motive of the artist. But this picture, Kamala, is meant to evoke peace. It's meant to evoke hope. It's meant to evoke assurance. It's meant to evoke, you see the doves and you see them figuratively in heaven. So it's meant to evoke peace. And while normally on here we would want to evoke peace, all those sentiments, I believe that's the wrong picture. I believe that's the wrong picture. I believe it's an inaccurate picture. I believe it's a false picture, and I believe the objective of it is false.
Well, let me ask you this question, because we started with the premise that we wanted to have a really meaningful, authentic conversation about this collective grief that we're experiencing. But a part of collective grief is that each of us are grieving. Tell us what it is that when you see this, what does it actually evoke for you?
Untruth. It evokes untruth. That's the problem. That's the problem I'm having with it. It evokes.
What's untrue about this for you?
The kids are not floating in the sky somewhere. Their bullet-riddled bodies are in morgues. This teacher, her husband planning her memorial or funeral service gets a heart attack and dies, leaving those kids. There's nothing hopeful about that. They're slaughtered and murdered and unrecognized. There are kids in hospital who won't walk again, whose bodies have been destroyed. And so I believe an image like the one we just showed, you can put it up again, is an image, is a setup. I believe this image is a setup, a setup for us to be lulled into apathy, to be to think, to move on. That's the word I want.
Mhm.
I believe this is the image that helps us to move on. I believe that image should be replaced with faces blown off and lifeless bodies and the tears of the siblings and the parents.
And as you're thinking about that, as you're experiencing that, what's the emotion?
Anger, helplessness, hurt, confusion. It's fear for my own children. I remember you and I were walking through Walmart last night, and I said to you, we could be, look at us, we could have been here to pick up a few things and walk, somebody come in and kill all of us. So there are all those different emotions that are happening to me.
I want to take a moment right here for those of you who are on with us, just to really acknowledge that emotional experience, anger, helplessness, confusion, hopelessness. I want for you to really reflect on that, because you said something that was really important, which is oftentimes, and I think more often than not, we get these images when these really horrific things happen that are created with good intentions, to evoke, feelings of peace, comfort. But at the same time, it does have this ability to kind of lull us, like you said, into this almost false sense of security that everything is going to be okay. And the truth of it, and I think if you guys are listening and you can relate to this, the truth of it is that we're not okay.
We're not okay.
And the premise of us talking about this tonight is to really allow ourselves to acknowledge the fact that we are not okay. There is so much stuff that has happened, is happening, we're anticipating to happen, that it's all, we've become a society that's really living on edge, almost waiting for the shoe.
And let me ask you a question, Kamala. Should we be okay? Should we have this traumatic experience and then move on?
Yeah.
Because I saw someone, you and I were talking. No, someone had posted that if a child has a stick and uses the stick to hit someone, sticks can't hit people. Children hit people. But then do you leave the stick with the child?
Yeah.
And then I said to you, well, Kamala, all they're going to do is come back and say, but do you take away the stick from every child that's not hitting someone? Do you take away the stick from the child that's using it for a ruler? Do you take away the stick from the child that's using it for firewood? Do you take away the stick from the child? And so the debate is going to go on and on and on and back and forth until we say, we're not okay with this. We don't want to be okay with this. We don't want to be lulled into believing these children are in heaven. These children are resting in the arms of Jesus. These children are now our guardian angels. These children are going to say hi to someone. We don't want. I am suggesting that Sister Glenn says, could they be implying that these children are now out of danger? That we were, yes, and that's fine. That's fine. Those kids are out of danger, but other children are in danger. And my argument, Kamala, is we can do something about it.
I think the piece that I wanted to add into that is also, should people have to continue to be in danger.
That's
Because
right.
that sense of apathy that I think that we have developed as a way of coping
Right.
with things that are seemingly outside of our control says to us that, okay, yes, people are no longer in danger without recognizing that, hey, what I'm accepting as the norm, what I'm accepting as my reality, that these things are going to happen, is not necessarily true.
There's no other country that they've pointed out over and over and over again. There's no other country in this world where this kind of slaughter happens on on the list. You just pull out the list there. There's no other country in this world. So my argument is that something can be done, but I believe one of the challenges with something being done. For example, I heard in an interview that they were doing with this gentleman from Uvalde, who said, "We will move on. We will get past this. We will move on." And that's where I'm having a problem.
Right.
As long as we're saying we will move on, as long as the president comes, and I want you to notice something. President Biden went there, and I'm so happy he did. President Biden went there, and as soon as he left, CNN started showing less of Uvalde. The media has started pulling out. But I think this idea that you cry and then you move on without dealing with the situation is a setup for the next mass shooting.
So it's interesting that you said that, because I was thinking
real
about.
quick, Sister Glenn says, but notice that we are in constant fear of the unknown, right?
Yes. So notice what you said, that, after a while, and this is what happens each time, after a while, we pull back from the experience of what is happening and we move on. I'm going to put the air quotes there, guys, move on, because truly we haven't moved on. If you think about this from the perspective of grief, and you might remember, for those of you who've been watching us for a while, a couple of weeks back, we talked to an individual about the experience of grief. We talked about the experiences of people who had lost people traumatically. We talked about those things. And we have a very clear idea of how grief happens to us individually, right? And we talk about denial, and we talk about anger, and we talk about depression, and we talk about all these different stages. But when we're looking at it from a collective perspective like this, sometimes we don't notice that those are the same things that are happening. So when you talk about, we pull out of, covering stories like that, or we make statements of we will move on, it's almost as if we reinforce the same kind of ideas.
Unhealthy healing.
Exactly, that we put on us on individuals. Think about it from this perspective. If you lose somebody, like, God forbid, something were to happen to you tonight, right? You lost your life. Quite legally and quite from, the standpoint of what we're accustomed to, there'd be a certain time period for bereavement given to the work, right?
Right.
That time period is usually about 3 days, maybe a week. And the overall messaging with that is, here's the time period that you have to get over this and move on.
And even if they're not saying get over it, they're saying pull it together, but they're definitely saying move on.
Exactly. And so that's the very same idea that we put into these kinds of things, where and
I understand that from a functionality.
Mm-hmm.
The country can't be
at a
standstill. But I'm arguing that maybe it needs to be. I'm arguing that maybe, and I can't tell me to stop shouting. I'm arguing that maybe they need to lock every shop, lock every store, lock I'm arguing.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there has to be this. I don't believe this has to be normal.
Yeah. And the truth is, we've gotten to this place because we've done the opposite of that so many times. We've moved on, we've functioned, we've made it work. And so now it's almost as if we need a drastic change to that to propel us to do something different, because we've become so desensitized to when catastrophic things happen. If you think about, I know we spent a lot of time talking about, the shootings that have occurred, but we've also gone through this experience of COVID for the last 2.5 years.
With that, and I think that's different.
Well,
I think,
this is what I was going to say about it. Just the same way in the beginning, there was a flood
yes,
of media activity and a flood of everything, right? And after a while, just like with everything else, we started to move on.
but I think though, like with COVID, yes, I do believe that we should move on. I do believe we should. I'm not sure exactly how. I don't want to get into the debate on masks and blah blah. Our family wear masks, but I do believe that we should move on from that. But that's something we don't have any control over. We can't decide when monkeypox is going to spread like a wildfire.
Right.
We can't decide when pandemics are going to come and go. But we can decide that we don't want any more gun violence. That's what I'm saying. It's and I'm not talking about now as an individual. I'm not talking about as an individual. It's 9:33. We want for you to give us some coping skills as individuals, how we deal with this. But I'm saying as a society, I don't believe as a society we should just settle into false the image that we've been showing is a false sense of that image right there. It's a false sense of security.
Band-aid on laceration.
It's a band-aid on laceration. Yes. Yes. And so we all feel good seeing that.
Yeah.
And we all generate hope from that. And I believe we should be hopeful. And it's not one thing.
It's not one thing. There are elements. We do need to have this idea of hope and a future and being able to rely on things. But at the same time, we can't take it to the extent that we don't focus on the facts at hand.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think of this thought, though, because you were saying that, collectively, we have to recognize what we do have control over and what we can do. What do you think? Are we able to do that collectively without individually being able to acknowledge that there's something wrong?
No, we can't. We can't do we can't do it collectively unless we take ownership of it individually. We can't do it collectively unless we take ownership of it individually. And unfortunately, so for example, Parkland, when the mass shooting in Parkland happened, those parents got together and they formed this group. In Atlanta, this young man got killed, and his mother, is it Rice? Tamir Rice? No, a young man got killed in Atlanta, and his mother, as a result, ran for Congress, and she's in Congress. The challenge with that, Kamala, is that it has to happen to me personally for me to get engaged and say no. It has to happen to me personally for me to get involved. And my argument is, if I'm waiting for it to happen to Ari and Gabby and Zach, and if I'm waiting for them to be, it's too late for me. One of my child will be dead. Why is it that we can't take? We've had enough pain. Where was it? Columbine, Parkland, and Kamala just showed you a whole list of killings and murders that has happened. Why is it that we can't take all of their experiences, make it into our own experience, where we wouldn't grieve for one day, where we wouldn't grieve for where we wouldn't grieve, where that picture couldn't comfort us.
Yeah.
Where that picture couldn't have made, if Gabby, God forbid, something happened to Gabby, Zach, or Ari, that picture couldn't do anything for me. Why can't we take their deaths, like you said, personal, take that as a part of our own experience, so that collectively as a country, we can say, you know what? Let's take these guns.
I think it requires us to, first of all, pause. Because I don't know that we're really assimilating this information. I don't know we're really taking it in.
I don't think so.
And so if I pause and truly stop and say to myself, what must it be like to be that parent whose child never came home that day? What must it be like to be the spouse of that person who went to a movie theater, never came out of it? What must it be like to just know that the life that you had in mind with an individual that you love and care for suddenly is never the thing that you'll experience again? I think that pause to reflect and truly try to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, I think doing that goes a long way, because we don't pause long enough. Life is so busy, life is hectic, we've got bills, we've got things to do, we have our own stressors, our own troubles, the things that we're worried about, whether we're sick, can we pay our hospital bill, we have all of this stuff. So that when it comes to something that even as horrific as this is, we go, oh my gosh, that's so bad, but we don't really pause.
You know, a Russian president, and I don't remember his name right now, he said that Russia won't need to destroy the U.S. because the U.S. will destroy itself from within.
What did you take that to mean?
What's happening? If you're killing off our young people, if you're trying to get a race war going, and if we're giving them the guns to do so, and let's make no mistake, we collectively are giving them the guns to do so. Let me say that again. We collectively are giving them the guns to do so. We collectively, when we move on, when we let it go, when we are giving them the guns to do so. Let's take a quick break. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about grieving, collective grieving, giving yourself permission to feel. And if you've been with us, you know that I'm going through all different kinds of emotions tonight, and the therapist is trying to help us out. We apologize that we were not able to have our guest. She's not feeling well, and we're praying for her and her family. Kamala, now you said where we left off was you talked about our inability, and I don't want to use the word inability, our reluctance, our unwillingness to pause, so that we can reflect on, so that we can treat these incidents, so we can own these incidents. So we're not waiting for it to happen to our own family. And during the break, our producer said, you know, people pause and it gets so scary for them. They have to move on. They have to, they can't deal with it. But Kamala, my argument is, if we don't pause and face it, it's just a matter of time before we all deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't outrun something that's traumatizing.
Right.
And the fact that we're facing this collective grief suggests that, and the fact that we hide from it, you know, when I talk about PTSD, right? One of the things is avoidance, right?
America is post-traumatic.
We avoid memories, we avoid things that trigger, you know, emotions about those experiences. And, you know, I won't go as far as not say we all have PTSD. When you think about it,
Collectively we do.
There are some good markers right there.
Collectively we do.
So I think the statement that Anna K made is indeed very relevant, because it does reflect, you know, the other end of things, where for some people it is that I've paused, but because I feel like I have no control over anything, I move on to preserve myself from kind of the onslaught of emotions that I have. So you talked about this earlier, so let's start there. What's the question to ask myself? Is this something that is truly outside of my control? You answered it. In these cases, no, this is not completely outside of my control. As a citizen of a country that's experiencing these things, I have rights and responsibilities to, when things like this occur, to speak to my congressperson, speak to my senator, to send letters, to sign petitions. There's all kinds of things that I can do. But I can't do. We have to stop telling ourselves that nothing will come of it if I do this.
Right, and some other things that we can do. And if you're out there and you're listening to us, share some ideas of things that we can do to actively participate in the healing of our nation, not in the moving on. Not in the move. That's not what this one was about. You know, that's not what this one was about. And we'll talk another time about the grief that we should move on from. We're going to have a pastor on to help us. We're trying to get a chaplain on to help us. Hopefully we'll get our guest that was supposed to be back here tonight to help us. And so they'll all be here to talk about what we can do to move on. And you know, we can join in that. But that's not for tonight. Tonight is, what can we do to heal, but not to heal in a healthy way, where we stop the killing. In a constructive way, where we stop the killing. And so you talked about writing your congressman, who you vote for. Vote for people that are not going to allow the NRA to dictate what happens. Right? When you cast your vote. Then the other piece of it is your local school. Your local school. I've seen in several cases where there are volunteers who go and they're standing guard at school. Those parents feel like they're doing something, and they are. They're actively involved. And then talk to your school board. Go to your school board and ask them, are our schools in our school district, are they safe?
What are the protocols? What do we have in place? What do we need to improve? What do we need to build on? Ask those questions. I think also important to what do we do is have the conversation. One of the things that we're doing tonight is having the conversation, because so often we don't have the conversation at all. So it also lends itself to us not allowing ourselves to feel the feelings. It lends ourselves to, you know what, I can't do anything about this, so I'm just gonna, you know, go back to life as normal. Have the conversation. Have it with your family. Have it with your friends. Have it with your co-workers. Have the conversation ongoing. Don't let it stop, because only as we talk about this do we start to generate ideas.
Yes.
It's like working in a group, right?
Yes.
If we don't, actually, let me take a look at it from this perspective. On the break, my husband had said to me, treat this like a group. So I'm thinking about it from that perspective. And one of the things that I have always enjoyed about the therapy process, especially in a group therapy context, is that many times, let's say we've got somebody who's new to that process, they'll always walk into that situation with a sense of fear, uncertainty. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe I feel like, this is all a waste of time. Nothing is going to come of it. We walk into those kind of experiences feeling that way. And maybe 95% of the time, because it's not a completely accurate science, but most of the time, guys, when we have somebody walk into a group therapy context, even with all of those fears, first thing that they recognize is, I am not alone in this. Mm-hmm. There are other people who feel the same way that I do. There are other people who have done things that I've never thought about doing. Mm-hmm. There are ideas that I had that I didn't know were any good. Mm-hmm. But when I put it out there in a group, I recognize, oh my gosh, this is actually a really viable idea that can be worked on. And so by talking together, we can really start to generate true and lasting, and to use the word that we started with, meaningful change.
So here's what we say. We say, number one, you're not powerless with all this killing and all this mass shooting and everything that's happening. You're not powerless. Write your congressman. Go to school. Go to your school board meetings. Ask, is my school safe? What has been done to protect my school? And let them show it to you. Demand to know what has been done to protect my school. Talk. Have the conversation with your family. Have the conversation in groups. Have the conversation at church. Have the conversation so that we can generate ideas of how to protect our children. And have the conversation with your children. What to do in case of a mass shooting. Have that conversation with them. Then there's another one. Make it if you live close, if you work or live close to where your school is, drive by your school every so often to check on it. Or you know what? Like I said, let's own it for everyone. Wherever you work, if there is a school there, go introduce yourself to the principal, introduce yourself to the staff, and say, listen, during my lunchtime, I'm driving by. I just want to see if there's anything weird going on around here. And listen, don't let anybody talk to you about profiling or whatever. You see something weird, you call the police and you say, this is what I'm doing. I'm just simply driving by the school. I see this weird. It looks weird. But you're not powerless. Don't just let feel-good speeches and nice things lull us into apathy and tell us that we're powerless. There's nothing we can do. There's a lot that we can do to help to kill this thing.
It's interesting. I was thinking about this as you were talking about, what it must be like for the school personnel, for teachers, yes, for principals, for the cafeteria staff, for the service workers. What must it be like for them to have an experience where the community bands around?
That's right.
What can we do? If there's one thing I know about schools, they always want to hear who wants to volunteer.
That's right. That's right.
And so to be able to show that kind of support, because think about the experiences that we have heard shared in the past couple of days. Think about how those teachers who lost their lives were shielding those students. Mm-hmm. These are the same teachers that we have talked about for how long, who don't get paid as much as other people.
Yeah.
Invest their lives, their personal monies, their time in the educating of a nation. Mm-hmm. And so what better way to show your school district, to show your educators, to show the people, even if you don't have kids, but to show the people that are educating people for the future that you care about them.
Kamala, and I think what you just said is just so important, even if you don't have kids. We have to view all these children as all of our children. The children that died in Uvalde, Texas, all 19 of them were our children. All 19 of them were our children. They're our children. And I'm telling us, I want to tell us, and I want to be clear to us. I want to be clear to us. If you have friends, if you have if we do not own all these children in America, if they're not all of our children, one day it's going to be my child. If we don't claim all these children of ours, one day it's going to be the child I gave birth to. And at that point, when I want to join groups and I want to do this and I want to do that, yes, it will help other children, but it wouldn't help mine. But if now I get involved, if now I say, I lost 19 children in Uvalde, I lost 19 children in Uvalde, and it stops now, and I begin to do something about it. I begin to use my grief. I begin to use my anger. I begin to use my my pain. I begin to use my hurt to say, I'm going to write my congressman. I'm going to protect a school nearby where I work. You see, because what I said at first was, if you live near to the school. No, the school, wherever you work, there's a school nearby you. Wherever you work, during your lunchtime, eat your lunch in your car and drive by that school. Whatever you can do, have the conversation, because if we don't take care of these children, like they're all ours, one day is going to be the child that we gave birth to.
A comment was made that, also that if you see violent behavior, if you see that escalating with family, friends, whatever, do what you can to get that person connected to resources that can assist them. Now, I will say to that as well, because a lot of times the connection has been made between mental illness and school shootings, and it is not a true statement.
Right.
So that's not the argument that we're making. But it is also still true that if you're noticing things that, first of all, that are challenging to the person experiencing it, please connect to resources as best as you can. Don't wait until something is out of control.
Right. That's right. And Kamala, what you just said is so true. They're talking about everything is mental illness. Well, number one, we're all mentally ill with sin. Okay. And I know that's not a therapeutic or that's not a scientific thing to say, but I think our viewers understand what I just said. All of us have something wrong with us. So enjoy, Stacey. Enjoy your family. So if you see something or you hear something, do something about it. That's what the person was trying to say. Do we love you, Stacey? Do something about it. I think, Kamala, one of the most important things that we can say tonight is it's all our children.
Yeah.
And we have to view them. We have to feel the pain. We have to feel the pain. Mm-hmm. In order for this to stop, we have to feel the pain that those parents, that the spouse felt, that the family members feel in Buffalo, in California, and then I just heard in Chattanooga, somewhere. It's just so much. In Tennessee, and it's multiple in Tennessee, to my understanding, in different cities. We have to feel the pain of these people. And when we feel the pain of these people, and we take it on our shoulders and say, you know what? That's not the child I gave birth to, but that's my child that died. And we can become engaged. Call our congressman. Have the conversation. Have the conversation. Have the conversation. Go to your school board. Are our schools safe? You know, I know that for a fact that all of my children's schools are safe. Gabby's school, when you go there, you can't get in unless you that you have to. You're on camera when you show up. They ask you what you're there for, and so that's something they've done to make sure it's safe. The middle school at Irish school, well, our former school now, the same thing. You can't just get in there. You know, so make sure the schools are safe. But it's not going to stop until we view these children as our own.
Yeah. Let's say it again. We are not okay.
Yes. 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 And don't try to be okay.
This is not stuff to be okay about.
No.
We get to feel this. We get to experience this. We get to be angry. We get to feel the pain. We get to feel the sadness. We get to feel the loss. We get to feel all of it. And it's important to do it as a way of acknowledging that these things that are happening to us are real and they are happening to us.
And allow the feelings we have, pause with them long enough to where you actually feel them, to where they affect you, so you can do something about it. So you can do something about it, because we have the power collectively to do something about it.
Yes. So if we wanted to put it in a little handy way for you to remember, pause, acknowledge, speak, and act.
Pause, acknowledge, speak, and act. I promise you, hang out with us. We're going to talk about how you can emotionally heal and move on in your own life. See, Mala, it's so, there's this tension.
Yeah.
And because there is the need to function.
But we have to get outside of this idea that moving on means leaving things undone.
Right.
That's not moving on.
Right. We haven't moved on.
We haven't moved on. We've left it alone.
Until the next time.
Yep.
And then the next time might be the child we gave birth to. Listen, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We're really, really, really grateful. We didn't have a lot of participation, so Sister Glenn, you're going to be getting our devotional A Journey Through Revelation. Look is Jesus. Will be our joy to send that to you. For those of you who just watched or listened or had us in the background, we thank you so very much. We're really, 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 really grateful. But it's a rough time, you all. I'm not gonna lie, it's rough. It's not. There's nothing to laugh about there with this situation.
Yeah. There's
nothing to giggle about, and I don't necessarily want to feel good about it. I don't want to see any pictures with them in heaven. I don't want to see any pictures of them in the arms of Jesus. I don't, because this is something we can do something about. We can do something about this. That crime didn't have to happen. That crime in Buffalo did not have to happen. They didn't have to happen. They happened.
Yeah.
We can prevent the next one. We can prevent the next one. And let me say this real quick before I go, Kamala. It's local. They say all politics is local. All crime is local. Let me say it again. All crime is local. It just hasn't reached your locality yet. But if we do something to prevent it, then it doesn't get to any. It's gonna come. We live in a world of sin, but we can do something about this stuff. Okay, I'm done. Have a good night, everybody.
Pause, acknowledge, speak, and act.
Pause, acknowledge, speak, and act.
Thanks for joining us tonight, guys.
We're grateful. I'm sorry it wasn't. I'm depressed. I'm stressed. Stuff.
Yeah. But guess what? That's okay too. We get to feel our feelings.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next Monday.